In the 1780s, Britain was in a difficult position after the American Revolution. They were forced to redraw the borders of North America, and the newly formed United States was a free country. A loyalist is a resident of the 13 colonies, or United States, who remained loyal to the British Crown during and after the American Revolution. It is estimated that 1 in 5 Americans were actually Brits at heart. During 1783 and 1784, between 80,000 and 100,000 Loyalists were persecuted and forced to leave their homes in the United States. Their homes were often burned, a classic angry American move. Many went back to their true homeland, England, or to the other British colonies. Almost 30,000 settled in Cape Breton, the island of St. John, and the St. John River Valley. There was also about 500,000 African Americans in the United States. Most of them were unfortunately slaves. The sneaky British thought that by offering freedom to these slaves, they could ruin America's plantation economy. So tens of thousands of slaves crossed the British lines and became cooks, laborers, or nurses. However, many of these people were sold back into slavery after the war was over, which wasn't fair on Britain's part. At the beginning of the American Revolution, First Nations felt that they had to choose sides. There was little chance of them avoiding conflict because the Americans were so land-thirsty. The Mohawk Nation, a part of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, had strong links with the British. Yet they decided to keep a neutral position, but Mohawk leader Joseph Brant disagreed. See, Joseph Brant believed that it was necessary for the First Nations to adopt some European customs at the same time keeping some of their own. He visited England as an ambassador in 1755 and secured a promise of lands in Quebec as long as the Mohawks fought with the British. So Joseph led the Mohawks and the Loyalists during the war. Britain ended up losing the war, so the 1783 Treaty of Paris recognized American independence, but it did not include First Nations. This obviously ruffled Brant's feathers, and he argued that the Haudenosaunee had supported the British for many years. He protested in a letter to the Grand Council. Brant was so insistent that the British government gave the Haudenosaunee land along the Grand River. In 1784, Mohawks and other members of the Confederacy settled there. After 1783, Britain made serious efforts to expand their English-speaking colonies. They wanted to build a population that was loyal to the British Crown. The first people welcomed to the north were the Loyalists, including the First Nations and African Americans. Since they were refugees from the U.S., they were less likely to cause trouble. Loyalists created problems for Britain because they demanded to be ruled separately from the French-speaking Canadians. In 1791, the Constitutional Act was passed dividing Quebec into 2 colonies, Lower Canada and Upper Canada. Lower Canada kept French culture, Catholic religion, and French civil law, and Upper Canada was English-speaking, Protestant, and kept English laws and institutions. The Constitutional Act gave both colonies their own government, consisting of an elected assembly, a governor, and 2 councils. The governor was a British nobleman. The governor appointed the members of the executive and legislative councils. The elected members could propose laws or acts, but these could be vetoed by the governor and the councils. This system was similar to the one that caused the rebellion in the 13 colonies.